As we get further along this offseason and especially the draft combine, we're starting to take and understand a bigger picture on what Ryan Poles does want back in a potential trade for the number one overall pick. We're also now with quarterbacks and how they performed in that combine are starting to see that maybe GMs are going to be a little bit more aggressive than what initially thought. We're going to talk about all those things, plus the best veteran offensive lineman out there for the Chicago Bears in this offseason. We're going to get to all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
All right, Bears fans, welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central. I'm the host here, Haize. You can follow me right off the top at CEO Haize, and let's go ahead and jump right into it. We have now gotten a little bit more details on what Ryan Poles is going to be looking back for that number one overall pick. This comes from NBC Sports' Peter King, and he says this. He's had enough conversations about a deal to know in swapping first round picks this year, he can get a 2024 one and a 25 one in a major package for a trade. However far down he goes in the draft this year, Poles wants to be sure he gets a blue player his term for a premier first rounder, and there are only about 6 or 8 of those when the Chicago Bears end up setting their board. So what that means and what that tells is that the Bears have probably 8 key prospects that they look at. If they walk away from this draft with, they get what is worth trading that number one overall pick. We also now know that the Bears not only won a number one in next year's draft, but potentially the draft after that. And that goes back to something that I've been saying here for a while when it comes to it, is that Ryan Poles, and why this decision this offseason is so important, is that in trading this number one overall pick, you can set yourselves up to have a high first round pick in addition to whatever your own first round pick is for at least the next season. I didn't even think they pushed that into 2025 as well. So with that now, and that kind of setting the tone on what we know of the Chicago Bears and what's been rumored as far as trades, you know, it lets us know that Ryan Poles is not focused on necessarily only in this year's draft. He is trying to set himself up, and the Chicago Bears seem to have additional assets going forward, and that's the most intelligent thing to do. When you look at how far the Bears are from technically competing, how many other spots they need to fill, everything is not going to be filled in this offseason. They're going to spend some money in free agency. They're going to draft some high-level players, and they're going to take a look at what they mean for the short-term and the long-term future of the Chicago Bears. And if you set yourself up with future high first-round picks with that as well, that allows you a chance to, while your team is improving, to have an additional first-rounder, to use those in trades if there is anyone you want to go after as well. It just gives you the most assets. And when the Bears are a 3-14 team, you want as many high-level, high-quality players and assets you can have as you continue to evaluate, because everything that you draft in this draft isn't necessarily going to hit. It'd be great if most of them do hit, and hell, if all of them do hit, then Ryan Poles is one of the greatest GMs of all time already. But you want to set yourself up for now, the present, and the future. And I love that Ryan Poles is focused on that. Now, with that said, we also got a report now that teams are scrambling to get the number one overall pick via trade from the Bears. So this was on the broadcast on the NFL. And Ian Rappaport, who's a insider there, said there is significant interest in the number one overall pick, and it's been bolstered by the performances that the quarterbacks had in the draft combine. So we look at Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Will Levis. Apparently their performance in this combine has made teams even willing to be even more aggressive about going out and getting one of those players. So we'll see. The Bears are going to have a lot of things at their disposal. They're going to have a lot of options. Ryan Poles has to make the right decision. I, for one, I have trust in Ryan Poles. I'm not necessarily blind faith, but I do have trust in Ryan Poles and his ability to just get the job done. I mean, that's what we need to do with this team, right? Is get that job, take advantage of where we are. When will we see that first round pick, that first overall pick traded? We could see it here close to the opening of free agency, because what that does, it allows the Bears to focus on what they want to do in free agency, plan for the draft as well, kind of get the speculation and talk around that trade done. But then as well, the Bears could be waiting to make their move to make sure that no other team tries to leapfrog if they do fall down a little too low. You got to do a lot of forecasting and things like this. And that's why I'm glad that Ryan Poles is doing that due diligence for sure. And we'll see what ends up happening. But, you know, it seems like right now, there have been some offensive linemen that absolutely dazzled. We even got a report that a lot of members of the Bears front office and executive teams went down to watch the offensive lineman workouts personally. And I think everyone in this organization understands how important getting this offensive line solved this offseason, right? I've said it kind of the focus, defensive line, offensive line. And I think the Bears understand how important it is for them to just evaluate their future and some of the players they already have on this team, how important it is to set that offensive line, to get a quality offensive line in that. So there's definitely going to be some of that. I'm glad to hear that in the combine, some of these offensive linemen absolutely stood out. Of course, number one on the board is Paris Johnson from Ohio State. He is hugely athletic. He's going to be able to make and probably start from day one. Now, the issue with Paris Johnson is depending on where the Bears have ranked on their draft board. We know that at least theoretically we're thinking that with those generational defensive linemen, that's kind of where their focus is. But Paris Johnson is going to be a first-round pick. So if the Bears do get an additional first on top of this, that rumored coach trade, things like that, we could see Paris Johnson, offense and defensive line, addressed just in that first round. Peter Sokransky from Northwestern, this is a guy that we talked about on yesterday's live stream. He's out of Northwestern. He's an offensive tackle. This guy is also a player that has enough athleticism, enough strength. He has a shorter arm length, which is, worrying some teams, but he seemed to dazzle also in the draft, and he's another one that the Bears could get lower first round as well. Next up, interior offensive line, Osias Torrance out of Florida. This guy shined as well, 6'5", 337 pounds. I almost said 500. 500 pounds, that's different. 337 pounds. Again, he's suited. The Chicago Bears type of system is one that utilizes zones and play action concepts, is one that plays into his skill set that we've seen from him in his college as well. He's another one that the Bears could take a look at. And then John Michael Schmitz out of Minnesota, a 3-year starter for that team. He's technically sound in everything he does in the run and the block. He's better as a run blocker though, but he also he just is a beast and a monster, and it seems like everybody loves his motor. Next up, Cody Mach. This is out of North Dakota State. This is a guy that we talked about in the Senior Bowl, 3-year starter for North Dakota State as well. Another guy, quick, athletic, is very strong. He's great in the pass rush as well. Better in the pass rush than he is necessarily in the run game, but he's solid in both. Interior offensive lineman Emil Ekiyor out of Alabama is another one as well who seemed to shine in this draft combine. Ricky Stomberg out of Arkansas, another one that's definitely stood up, one of the best centers in the draft overall. And we do know that center position is one that we're going to theoretically be looking to shore up as well. He's another one that could go maybe towards that second round, and the Bears could absolutely, if they have multiple second round picks, can go out there and get that done as well. Matthew Bergeron out of Syracuse is another one as well. A big athletic one. He'll be able to beat most defenders. He's great in pass protection, which is what we're kind of looking for in this draft as well. Dawad Jones, another one out of Ohio State, 6'8", 375 pounds. Another one that could very well help the Bears. Probably be more of I don't know if he's a day one starter. He could come in and do some things. So these are some of the players that have shined in the draft combine, and the Bears could absolutely take a look at. Now, one of the things with me that I've been saying is that I do think that the Bears, with how many young players they already have on their offensive line, Braxton Jones, Terrence Jenkins, Larry Borum, J. Tyree Carter, who I think C-Dub pointed out on yesterday's live stream. And I do think that there is going to be a mixture of youth and veterans that we can go after. And so there are some veterans on the offensive line as well, some that we've already talked about. We've talked about Orlando Brown earlier in free agency. He's been talked about. Mike McGlinchey's another one that we've talked about. Very rumored. I think Pro Football Focus had us rumored as signing him or projected to sign them in their mocks. But also Taylor Lewin out of Tennessee. He played with Tennessee Titans last season. Another one that we could definitely look at. He's a completely unrestricted free agent. George Fent as well. He's another one from the Jets that we can take a look at and bring in there. Cameron Irving out of Carolina, unrestricted free agent we can look at. Basically what I use that to say is that the Bears have a lot of potential players they can go after both in the draft and the free agency to shore up that offensive line. One of the things that I do think that the Bears are going to do is maybe sign a veteran to a 2-3-year deal while some of the younger players develop and they can come in, get some spot rotational type things, and you can develop them. Then you can have a young front line going forward that can grow with Justin Fields. But really, Ryan Poles has so much at his disposal as far as improving this team that you can't miss. This needs to be the offseason that we make meaningful improvement on that offensive line and defensive line, but today I'm focused on that offensive line. And when the Bears do that, we're going to be able to take and evaluate Mooney, Claypool, Haize, and Justin Fields as a passer. So, we can continue to do that. And I do think the Bears, like I said, they're going to do their due diligence. They're going to bring in the weapons. And I think that that offensive line has to be a priority. And just hearing how the Bears and their execs went down there to watch the offensive linemen work out personally, that tells me that that is high on the board for the Chicago Bears in this upcoming draft. Now, one of the other positions that we could be looking at to go after in the draft, if David Montgomery does not re-sign or they don't want to spend the money, there's a lot of quality running backs that you can get in here. Don't necessarily come in and project as a day one starter, but could come in, help with play with Khalil Herbert, help keep that double-headed monster down there in the running game. I want to be clear here. I still would like to see David Montgomery come back over anything. We'd already talked about the Saquon Barkley thing probably ain't happening. Even though I know some Bears fans are going to hold that hope until he officially signs with another team. But we've talked, one of the players that I'm the highest on is Tajay Spears out of Tulane. I would love for them to absolutely get them a 39-inch vertical leap when you look at that. And he didn't run the 40-yard dash, so there's something with that we didn't get any official measurements with that. But again, this guy's a guy that shine. He can play. He's going to come in and be able to at least project to be an impact player in the NFL in some type of way if you use him correctly. Mohamed Ibrahim, as well, out of Minnesota, is another one that the Bears could look at. He was a Golden Gopher. He had a great 2022 season where he rushed for over 1,600 yards and 20 touchdowns. He's older than most prospects in this draft. He'll be 24 in September. So this is absolutely somebody that the Bears could go after, probably lower in that draft, and get some quality talent. Again, a little bit older. Did we get burned by going older with Velus Jones last offseason and last draft? Maybe there's some of that there, but you can look at that as well. Deuce Vaughn as well out of Kansas State. He's becoming favorites here. He had a really good 2022 season in college. He rushed for over 1,500 yards, 9 touchdowns, and getting over 5 yards per carry. He's only 5'6" and 175 pounds. So there's, of course, some issues with concerns with his size and durability in that case. But he's another guy that could be on the Bears board if they're not able to lock in David Montgomery or maybe another high-level running back for that. Another one, Saradrick Thompson out of Texas Tech. This guy is another one. He's not the fastest. He only ran a 4.6 40-yard dash, which is what some defensive linemen that weigh way more than him ran. But again, he could be another one that could be used as a late-round pick. He also could be an undrafted free agent that the Bears decide to go and take a look at, and we've had some success with undrafted free agents. So, we'll see what the Bears end up doing. There's a couple of key positions that you don't really know right now if the Bears are going to have to target or will target in the draft. But as we go forward, as we get through free agency, as we start seeing Bears sign players or re-sign some of the players already on this team, we'll have a better outlook on what that goal is going to be in the draft. But that is it for today's daily episode. Make sure you stay in tune with us by following us on social media at Shy Bear Central on every social media platform. You can also send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. And then lastly, you want to leave a text message and our voicemail, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. We'll see you guys when we drop another video, which will probably be tomorrow. Make sure you guys stay in tune with us and keep following us. And thank you for all the growth of the channel. But like I like to end every episode on, bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.